This is the Elliott Wave Traders Classroom. I'm Robert Kelley. All right, today we're looking at a chart of Williams-Sonoma. We're going to do a wave counting exercise. And if you're new to Elliott Wave, this should be a little bit of a challenge, but a great process to go through and see how a wave count is put together. And if you're a little more advanced, you can find that you can do this. And then you can have the confidence that you're able to look at a chart and find a good count. Now, I do pick stock charts that have reasonably clear wave counts. That way we're not struggling and debating and having to kind of have wave counts that aren't textbook and debatable. So, this is a pretty good chart here. I would say this is an impulsive advance. And you can see the stock went from a split adjusted low of 14 cents. It's over $200 right now. So I like to highlight stocks that have a good track record of going up because it's a stock that you can consider as an investment potential if you have a wave count in the near term that's bullish. All right, because these things, I just believe that these stocks have a tendency to go up because they've got a good management system, a good market idea, so some kind of advantage that they continually exploit to produce profitable results. So now let's figure out what we're dealing with here, looking at the big swings to determine how we're going to count this thing. All right, so what we always do is, first of all, make sure you're in a log scale, semi-log, log, same thing. And that way you're not looking, if you don't have that, you're going to get this. And there's too much compact price action to accurately count the waves. So you got to be in semi-log. All right. And we're going to look, first of all, at the big counter trend moves. All right. That's big. That's the biggest one. All right. That's the second biggest one. And then the rest of them are kind of similar. So we're going to start with the big swings and then drill down to the shorter term patterns, update the count, work our way from the left side of the chart to the right, and then we'll zoom in. This is a monthly, and then we'll zoom into the daily and come up with what the short term pattern looks like. All right, so if the way you do this, if you're new and you want to try to guess what come up with your count and then compare it to how I count it, and I'll show you the E-Waves count when we're done. Then let's see if it's good or if it's at odds with what I'm counting. Now, what I'm counting isn't the only possible count, but it needs to be a reasonably good alternative if it's different. All right, so that's the biggest pullback. All right, this move up looks impulsive. So I'm just going to, first of all, call that a 1 and a 2. Okay, and so we're looking at 20 plus years of advance. So that's going to be primary degree. So that's going to be the 1 with the circle around it. All right, so we'll put that 1 there and leave a little room below it for the lower degree wave patterns. All right, and that's going to be our 2. All right, so let's go back here and start with this action and try to count basically 5 waves up. All right, because this is the low. So that's where we start the count. And we were looking to count a 5-wave rally for wave 1. All right, so if you want to join in, pause the video, pull up a chart, focus on it, come up with a way to count 5 waves. So let's do the larger degree first, and then we can break it down if we need to look at the smaller degree pattern. All right, so here's how I'm counting it. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's pretty easy because in this advance, these are the 2 largest pullbacks. So that's a pretty easy call. Now the internals, okay, we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here, it's a little difficult. The internals of this are not that textbook. But the best count, and a lot of times, you want to break down the third of the third wave because it usually has more detail. It's usually longer. So we will go ahead and put those labels on. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so the internals of the third wave, I would say, are not textbook. But remember what I always say, when you're counting something, you have to count it somehow. So you do the best you can, even if sometimes the internals of a pattern do not line up well. So this could be like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, where you've got a little bit of overlap here. That's the main issue with this count. But I just don't see a better interpretation. So, and we know that the result, whatever it is, however you count the internals, the larger result's what matters, and that's that you've got a 1 up and a 2 down. All right, so that part's done. Well, the fifth wave here is, I guess, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 1, 2. I mean, that looks kind of like an ending diagonal. It doesn't count well. I'll show you the E-waves count in a bit. All right, so there's our 1, 2. And the internal count for the decline isn't that clear, but it looks kind of like an A, B, C. Probably like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 within C. All right, so then now we're gonna, I guess we can zoom into the weekly and focus on the action from the wave 2 low. All right, so let's take a look again, looking at the bigger swings. Rally, pullback, rally, pullback, rally. All right, so you could say there's 5 waves up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now that's a possible count. But if we look at the dollar amount, now I guess, this is one of those questions that occasionally I get from you guys is, what about the possibility that in a log scale chart, I mean, if I take a precision ratio compass, okay, the distance from this low to the high on the chart is larger than the distance from this low to this high. So that means that on a log scale chart, the third wave is not the shortest. So you could call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. But if you look at the dollar amount, let's just say that looks like about, I don't know, $12, $15 up to about 100. So roughly $80. All right. Now this will add $80 to this low, around 50. All right. And this thing is way above there. So price wise, the third wave is the shortest. All right. So that leaves it a pretty clear choice of how to label this. So this one's kind of easy in a way. All right. So go ahead and put your labels on, and I'll show you the way I'm interpreting it. Okay, so here it is. Pretty clear, I would say. 1, 2, 1, 2, maybe 1. All right, so the internals of wave 1 are not that. I mean, it looks impulsive. It's not. I mean, that's the biggest pullback. There's really not a pullback, of that size. So you kind of have to pick your spots on how you want to label the internals. But if you want to pause the video and do that, I'll put my labeling on here, and you can see how I'm counting it. So we're going to I would put the wave 1 just right here. 1, 2. All right, call that 3, 4, and then this would be 5. All right, and then from here, try to label a 2. It's a fairly clear pattern. All right, I'm going to count it as A, B, C. All right, so I got that fixed. 5 up, 1 ABC 2, another 1 2 here. We can zoom in a little bit more. Okay. go ahead and try to label the internals of that wave 1. All right, so I'm going to call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then here, if internally, I'd say 1, probably leading diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and then let's zoom into the daily and look at the action from the wave 2 low. All right, so let's look at the action here from this wave 2 low right here, this green wave 2. And, you can kind of see maybe a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? All right, so that's a possible count. So go ahead. If you agree with that, you can label it as such. And then I'll show you my count. All right, so here's a possible count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's look at the internals. All right, this isn't great. I mean, honestly, this is a 3-wave move. I mean, I guess we could slide this over here, call that some kind of a truncation, so we don't have a 3-wave wave 1. But in general, look, it's, again, you're going to encounter this where wave counts aren't textbook. But obviously, this is an impulsive advance, so you do the best you can to count the internals. All right, so then 1, 2, I think that's fine. That's pretty clearly impulsive. 3, that's a definite clear consolidation for wave 4. And then look at wave 5. Well, it's debatable, but you could say that that's a 3-wave rally, which could mean that wave 4 was a flat, and you can see it's retraced. And the reason I would give this count good credibility at this point is because it's retraced probably like 90% of this drop, and the time of the retracement is longer than the drop. So it does not appear to be a 1-2 or an AB. So for that reason, I think you can call this a 4. All right, so that leaves us here with, let's get rid of that, with counting the internals of this wave 5. All right, go ahead and put your labeling on for that, and we can kind of come to the current time frame here. Okay, so that's how we count that. 1, 2, working 3, 4, 5 to come. You could maybe say it's 1, 2, 1, 2. Right, so that'll be more bullish and call for a little bit more rally and more time on this advance. All right, now you could maybe ask, well, what if this could be 1, 2, go ahead and call that 3, 4, and then this is 5. Okay, so that would give us a 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I mean, you could, but usually third waves are a lot longer than first waves. So I think for that reason, to call this a wave 1 of 3, 1 of green 3, and not all of green 3 makes more sense. But certainly, once 5 waves up are done, some kind of pullback will happen. All right, so let's zoom in a little bit closer here to the daily time frame. Get this a little closer on the screen. Okay, so we clearly have a third wave up in play. And what we always do when we're trading in third waves, all right, this is kind of halfway in between. Like in the early part of third waves, I'll give it maybe down to the 786. Once it's got a good move in here, I'm going to want to say the 618. All right, and once if it keeps going, then you'd say, okay, maybe the top of wave 1 that should not be overlapped. All right, but for now, I would say that this thing should go higher as long as it holds above right there, 167.06. I think I've got the semi-log for drawing tools, so it's a little bit different than the mathematical calculation since I'm using a log chart. But for now, I could say you could be bullish Williams-Sonoma as long as it holds above 167.06. And I would expect this rally to continue, ultimately to complete 5 waves up from this low here before we put in a good top. Okay, I tend to like to look at the seasonal chart just to show you how that looks because it can be helpful in deciding whether you want to jump in on something. Seasonal chart is generally pointing higher here. Let's put the cursor on August the 6th. And you can see it's got a nice seasonal up move due right now. This peak is September 16th. This low, October 29th. So the seasonal is bullish, and you can see it ends of the year up around 15%, 14.85. So that tells you that that's roughly the average annual gain of Williams-Sonoma. It's up around 15%. So if you can buy it early in the year in January and sell it here in September, you can capture more than that if it were to hold true to form. And then, of course, the wave count is telling us something as well. So that's a pretty good stock to consider, do your own wave count. But I think that we've got an ongoing bullish count that's not done on the upside, and that gives us potential opportunity. So hopefully you've been able to kind of follow along with this count pretty well. If not, you can, kind of give it a fresh start and try again, watch the video. Oh, let me show you the E-Waves count. Okay, it's very similar to my count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I will just zoom in at the stages. Of course, you can pause the video and focus on the detail if you want. Let's zoom into this low here. Okay. Not the most beautiful wave 1 there. A little more detail here. ABC expanded flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's kind of a truncated C wave there. And then 1, 2. Let's zoom into that low. Okay. And then there's your ABC flat wave 4. And then 1, 2. Let's zoom in again. 1, 2, working a 3 of a third wave, 3 of 3. So that's basically the count that I just came up with. So hopefully you have something similar, and you can see that there's a good risk kind of level you can put on this. If you were to own the stock, again, around 167.06 would be the number I'd look at. And you can see this thing has been pushing higher in the face of this last pullback in the S&P. So that's kind of showing a little bit of relative strength as well. All right, that's it for today.